If yesterday's race is anything to go by, this second race of the weekend here in Portimão for the Fanatec GT2 European Series should be quite something. Yesterday we had a late race safety car which turned the complexion of the race on its head, gave us lots of late race drama, and the drivers that finished yesterday are starting today, so a continuation of that battle is in prospect. Welcome to the second race of the weekend. We're into the second half of the season in Fanatec GT2 European Series. We've been to Monza, to the Red Bull Ring, and Dijon. After Portimão there is just Valencia and then Paul Ricard to come. Very hot day with the track temperature over 40 degrees. Happy birthday, Stefan Rattel. He celebrated a day early yesterday with a party in the paddock and also his best finish of the season. Second place. He's never been third on a podium, he was saying. He's never been on the top step, but he's had a fair few seconds now. So he's celebrated that best result of this season. And let's see what pans out for him and co-driver Mattia Di Giusto, who is going to start. Pierre Kaffer, though, is the man on pole position. The vastly experienced, very, very quick German driver, who sort of dropped off the radar a little bit a few years ago, but with his experience of Audis in sports prototype racing, of Audis in the DTM, of racing for Ferraris in America, IMSA, WEC, you name it, all of the experience being put to good use as he co-drives with the amateur driver Michael Doppelmayr. David Addison trackside. Steph Wentworth is down on the grid, and she has found Henri Hassad, winner of yesterday's race.
With Henri Hassad from car 67 behind you, as you can see. You guys won yesterday, so congratulations. How do you feel about the race today?
Thank you for yesterday. I think today it will be very difficult because we had a penalty of 15 seconds. So I hope Anthony do a very, very good stint, and after I have just to overtake all the car. To win again.
Best of luck, thank you.
Thanks.
Henri Hassad touching on the fact that the top three carry a compensation penalty, if you like, into today's race. So if you win, you get an extra 10 seconds. If you get second place, it's 7. If you get third place, it's 5. So in each category, Pro-Am and Am. So 10 seconds to the category winners of yesterday. This Audi and the number 16 KTM of Mercedes-AMG, Klaus Angerhofer. 7 seconds to Stefan Rattel and Mattia Di Giusto's Audi in Pro-Am and Leonardo Guarini's Porsche in Am, and 5 seconds to number 18, which is the LP Racing Michael Doppelmayr, Pierre Kaffer pole sitting Audi from Pro-Am, and 87, which is Jean-Luc Bourbelik and Christophe Bourret's first time out Mercedes that got third yesterday in the Am category. They will carry those extra time to serve in the pits. So the grid now being cleared. Drivers in a moment or two will be released behind that leading car, ready for the rolling start. It might be a small grid, but the racing has always been very competitive in Fanatec GT2 European Series. Audi, along with Mercedes, along with Porsche, building cars. Maserati have got a GT2 built as well that's due to break cover later on in the year on track. KTM also supplying a rather different way of going GT2 racing, but very quick and very competitive, and great value for money they are as well. Green flag shown then, so the cars leave the line, make the run into turn 1, and one hopes that with a number of drivers that have dipped in and out this year, lots of gentlemen racers race when they can with their business commitments. They like what they've seen, they will come back for more, and it's a deliberate decision to go to a German GT round last year to showcase GT2 to a different market, and it's brought a few more nationalities and teams drivers in this year. Pierre Kaffer on pole, Stinus Langin, the Audi driver alongside him. Anthony Beltoise lines up third on the grid, and then Reinhard Koffler, very quick single-seater racer many years ago, starts fourth ahead of Mattia Di Giusto, and sixth on the grid, Benjamin Ricci. 7th is where you find Stefan Rossina, and Sadie Sarmini starts from 8th, Smile Doc as he's known. 9th, Jan Krabec, who lost his AM Championship lead yesterday after a puncture. Leonardo Guarini is alongside him. And then to round out the grid is Christophe Bourret started, and Jean-Luc Bourbelik shared Mercedes-AMG GT2. There's a mandatory pit stop between 20 and 30 minutes. The regulation time is 2 minutes and 4 seconds, plus whatever you accrued yesterday for those 6 cars. So effectively half the field having longer pit stops due to their results of yesterday. So therefore that's going to shuffle the order as well. This is the view from Mattia Di Giusto's LP Racing Audi. LP Racing got a 1-2-3 yesterday, and a great effort it was by Mattia to get past Benjamin Ricci and also Pierre Kaffer, who was 9th and effectively last when the safety car came out. And then with everybody bunched up, he just carved his way as expected through the pack. Another couple of laps, might have been able to do something about the race leader, but time ran out. But Pierre Kaffer, even so, able to come through for 3rd place, the best finish that he and Michael Doppelmayr have scored thus far. So there is Benjamin Ricci turning his way down through turn 11. Makes the climb up the other side. And when they get out of turn 14, they'll put themselves in that 2x2 rolling start formation. The Mercedes, yesterday, this car had a really good fight early on with a similar car of Jean-Luc Boblique when he was driving it, started today by Christophe Bourret. But the two cars run by the Acodis ASP team, always the stronger of the two was the Ricci family affair, dad and lad. And it is Benjamin who will start it. Mauro Ricci will take it over for the 2nd stint, as Pierre Kaffer has one very clear aim here: grab the lead and build a gap so that Michael Doppelmayr has something to protect in that 2nd stint. Michael's pace not on a par with Pierre Kaffer's. He would admit that. He's the slower of the two. So the lion's share of the work falls on Pierre Kaffer's shoulders. The last thing he needs is a safety car in either stint, really, because if he has one in his stint, then everyone will catch up to him and he can't build as big a gap. And if there's one in Michael Doppelmayr's stint, then they'll catch him and he won't be able to retaliate. So the only time they want a safety car is in race 1, stint 2, when Kaffer is behind the wheel like we had yesterday. So into turn 15 they come. Mattia Di Giusto ready to floor the loud pedals, see what he can do to jump ahead of the traffic. Then he lines up behind Anthony Beltoise, twice a winner now, Anthony and Henri Hassan. This is Benjamin Ricci's view as the cars work their way out of turn 15, heading up towards the timing line then to get the 2nd race of the weekend underway. The cars come towards the timing line and it is blast off then now as the cars head towards the line. The lights will blink green once they get to the line now. Pierre Kaffer converts pole position into the race lead with, darting out from behind him there, Anthony Beltoise trying to make it 3 Audis, 3 abreast down towards the first corner. Longchamp on the outside line and Kaffer hits the curb and that delays him, and so Longchamp leads. Way out wide there goes Reinhard Koffer in the KTM, but he's got himself up into 2nd place on the outside line. Pierre Kaffer's going to have to put out his elbows here, trying to claim the inside line for 3, which he's done, but Koffer on the inside at turn 4 tries to squeeze past. Di Giusto's gone backwards in the pack. Benjamin Ricci goes past him down towards turn 5, and Pierre Kaffer tries to fight back against Reinhard Koffer, who makes the move on the inside in the KTM. So Pierre Kaffer, it's all unravelling. He gets forced out wide, but this is not what he needed at the start of the race. He's found himself from pole down to 3rd place, and that means that Stinus Longchamp, the reigning Pro-Am champion, is getting away up front, and it means that Pierre Kaffer has got a lot of work to do, because rather than lead and pull away, he's got to fight his way first of all past the KTM and then catch the race leading car, the similar Audi, in the hands for the PK Carsport team of Stinus Longchamp. Up the hill to turn 9 they come. In 4th place it is Beltoise, then in the LP racing car, dropped downhill. And Stinus Longchamp, who had a pretty torrid time yesterday, a spin in his stint. Peter Guelinckx was leading and had a puncture on the 2nd lap of the race. They aim to make amends now as the cars come up through turn 14. There is 61. That's Benjamin Ricci at the wheel. He's got Di Giusto behind him, and then Stefano Rossino, I think it is, in the next of the KTMs in the queue. So this is the LP Racing Audi. Di Giusto at the wheel. 2nd place yesterday, the Italian GT4 Pro-Am Sprint champion, Mattia Di Giusto at the wheel, and Stinus Longchamp escaping up the road as they come over the line. In 2nd place, then Reinhard Koffer, but Pierre Kaffer is right on his tail and looks to try to make a move coming down towards turn 1, but the Audi not able to have a real dive under braking, and this is bad news because he's already jumped nearly 2 seconds against the leader. So Pierre Kaffer, after that little curb clip, really seemed to unsettle him and lose momentum into the first corner, trying to fight back. But Reinhard Koffer, who came through the karting of the Formula BMW ranks, worked his way up as far as Formula 3. He's hanging on to 2nd spot. Round the outside tries to go Kaffer, but Koffer is having none of it. Pierre Kaffer looks for the tighter line coming out of the corner, gets the slingshot up the inside. That's the inside line for 6. He's got to get the job done because then he's on the wrong part of the racetrack for 7, but the work is done. He's done it, he's gone by. Pierre Kaffer up into 2nd place, and now he should be able to do something about the car that he out-qualified, the yellow Audi leading the way as over the brow they come once again. So 1.9 seconds was the margin first to third. Now it's first to second, Longchamp to Kaffer. And Mattia Di Giusto, as he was yesterday, looking for a way past Portimão Ricci. He cleared him eventually. Let's see whether he can do it again. The Mercedes yesterday always seemed to have a little bit more drive out of the corner than the Audi did. And it's the same again because he just gaps the Audi by a length or so coming up towards turn 13 here. See how much effort Di Giusto has to put into the car. Into Sagres, turn 14. And that's part of the racetrack where yesterday, certainly from onboard, we were seeing the drivers having to work hard. And again at 15, you'll find them using the curb on the inside. But then there's a bump in the corner, it unsettles the car. There it is, it sort of spits them wide. And Di Giusto, in qualifying, lost at least 2 laps because of going very wide here on the exit of that long corner up towards the line. So past the pits they go. And that is Pierre Kaffer, who's now done the fastest lap of the race. 1.7 seconds back from Stinus Longchamp as he pushes on, tries to bring down that gap. Up through turn number 1 goes that midfield scrap. Mattia Di Giusto here in 6th place on the tail of Portimão Ricci, but close as he is, he's not quite been able to make that move yet, and this is pretty much what he had to struggle against yesterday. That Mercedes, lots of grunt, really good out of the corners. So they brake, they set the car up for the hairpin at turn 5. Behind the pair of them, 7th, Stefan Rossina, in another of the Pro-Am class KTMs. The leading Am is Sedi Samini, up from the 8th spot on the grid. You get a point for pole as well in each category. So Sedi Samini helping Klaus Angerhofer, who is the championship leader ahead of Jan Krabec. That changed yesterday. So Jan Krabec retired with a puncture yesterday in the race. He wants to try to fight back. Track limit warnings are coming. 1 for Di Giusto, 1 for Stefan Rossina. There is Mattia Di Giusto. The race director keeping a close eye on this. Joel Goval as down the hill they drop once again. And also being warned about track limit offences at turn 4 is Rossina. So 2 different corners and he's being monitored. The KTM in 7th place, really pushing on. Behind 8th, Sedi Samini, Smile Doc leading in Am. And then behind is Jan Krabec in the black KTM, the RTR Project car. Behind him is Leonardo Gorini, and then it is Christophe Bourret at the back of the queue. As up past the pits goes Stinus Longchamp, ahead of Pierre Kaffer with 1.7 seconds being the margin, and Longchamp now has done the fastest lap of the race. So no respect of reputation. He is humbling Pierre Kaffer a little bit now by going quicker. Koffler 3rd, Beltoise 4th, Ricci 5th, 6th Giusto, 7th Rossina, 8th Samini, 9th Krabec, 10th Gorini, and 11th is Bourret. So this is the quickest car on the racetrack. Stinus Longchamp, whose father Bert Longchamp raced in the championship in the first 2 seasons of its creation. Also, of course, Bert Longchamp, FIA GT champion and the 24 Hours winner, Spa 24 Hours winner. He's here to cheer on his son, and Pierre Kaffer not being able to really claw back the lost time. So the PK Car Sport entry ahead of the LP Racing Audi, the R8 GT2. Same car, different teams. 3rd, KTM, Koffler. 4th, Audi from LP. That is Anthony Beltoise, the French Carrera Cup champion, the French GT champion. Son of Jean-Pierre Beltoise, nephew of François Seller, is Anthony Beltoise. Comes over the brow, still chasing on in pursuit of the KTM. But Reinhard Koffler, for the moment, has pretty much stabilised that gap. It's over a second. So there you've got the KTM in 3rd place. Reinhard Koffler, his last lap was 1:45.2, so not as quick as the Audis ahead, but quicker than Beltoise. So he's keeping yesterday's winner at bay. Remember that Beltoise has that extra penalty to serve, 10 seconds in the pits as the leaders come up now over the line. Through goes Stinus Longchamp. Kaffer in 2nd place. 3rd is Koffler. Lead gap down 1.3. That's Kaffer doing the fastest lap of the race this time, so he's narrowed it a little bit. But don't forget that he's going to be in that car for as long as he possibly can be, bearing in mind he's quicker than Doppelmayr. Also factor in that the leading Audi does not have any extra time to serve in the pits because it was out of the top 3 in its class yesterday. So in that respect, whatever the advantage is that Longchamp has now, it'll grow certainly over some because it'll be the regulation pit stop time, not with any extra success to factor in. There is Kaffer, braking late for turn 5. That's Torre VIP hairpin, climbs out of the hairpin. Momentum absolutely crucial at that part of the circuit, and you can see now how in 3rd place Reinhard Koffler is falling away. So Pierre Kaffer goes through. There's AM and there's Pro-Am in this championship. There is also the Iron Cup, which is awarded to the driver combination that's home first with a combined age of over 100. So Bobelik and Bure are eligible for that. So are Samini and Angerhofer. So are Doppelmayr and Kaffer, because Michael Doppelmayr is 63, even though Pierre Kaffer is in his mid-40s, and Henri Hassad at 63, and 51-year-old Anthony Beltoise are eligible as well, and they were the winners of it yesterday. Gorini there, second in the AM contest yesterday, currently third and chasing after Jan Krabec. You can see KTM versus Porsche, two very different shapes to go GT2 racing, but that gap coming down between the two of them. Up front, Sadie Samini leads the class in the car that he will hand over to Klaus Angerhofer. So Longchamp leading the way, Kaffer second, and still trying to chip away at that margin. They are coming up towards the line as the AM top three, Concertina up at turn 14, the Sagres right-hander. So the lead gap just over a second now. Pierre Kaffer quicker by 2/10 on that last lap. Out of turn 15, KTM, Porsche. Leonardo Gorini in that ultra-smart EB Motors car. A little bit of smoke, is that coming out of the back a bit? Or was that tar smoke? Didn't think necessarily that the car was leaning on its suspension, but it just looked a little bit hazy at the back as he came up out of turn 15. Down towards turn 1 goes Gorini. Let's have another look at the rear of that car, just see whether it is a bit smoky. Yeah, there's another little wisp of something coming out of the back. So Leonardo Gorini's last lap was a 47.4. Decent enough pace, but no doubt the team will be keeping an eye on all of this as he heads now over the turn 4 exit. Down towards turn 5 then, drops the Porsche, and the battle between the KTMs is getting closer because now Jan Krabec is certainly closer to Sadie Samini coming out of the corner. Make the climb up towards turn 6, and with the pit window 10 minutes away from opening, Krabec and Gorini, the two soloists, so their cars run at the same pace race long. They don't have to think about a change of driver, whereas Ricci Jr. will give way to his father, whereas De Giusto here will give way to Stefan Rattel. And differing speed of drivers may well affect the battle going into the second part of the race. De Giusto up towards turn 13, down through the gears. Sagres turn 14, takes a much deeper approach to the corner there. Tries to cut back and find an apex as the leader's getting a little bit nearer. Head up toward the line. It was a second last time. It's 7/10 now. So Pierre Kaffer, who by rights, you could argue, should be in the lead anyway, chipping away to try and get back onto terms with Stinus Longchamp, and coming now up through the right-hander at turn 1. So Longchamp, Kaffer, the margin, as you can see, has been coming down lap by lap, 0.789 of a second when they came over the stripe last time. Kofler still runs third ahead of Beltoise. That car also, bear in mind, the Beltoise fourth-placed Audi has another 10 seconds to serve on the pit stop. So that's a team that does want a second stint safety car. Out of turn 5 goes Kaffer, still chipping away. Here's the problem, very evenly matched cars. Difficult to really claw back much time. Now, as they head sideways in the case of the leader out of turn 8, replay of the start. Have a look at Pierre Kaffer. It wasn't a great getaway. Longchamp was really brave around the outside, but watch the black and red Audi on the inside. It hit that curb really hard. That unsettled it. And so Longchamp was able to take full advantage of that, as was Kofler around the outside. But now, Pierre Kaffer has gobbled up 7/10 of a second very quickly indeed. Right there on the tail of the leading car. Pierre Kaffer tries now to force a little mistake out of Stinus Longchamp and makes a look to the inside line there. He's up the curb. There's just about width for two Audis. Now, who's got the drive out of the corner? Pierre Kaffer trying to stand his ground but couldn't quite do it. Is the final corner an overtaking opportunity? Well, again, Pierre Kaffer with a really tight line on the inside tries now to position the car so he's nice and close at turn 1, but he's lost a little bit of time coming out of that long right-hander. Past the pits they go, down towards turn 1. Into the braking zone and through that right. Pierre Kaffer 0.4 of a second back, so he is closer, but not quite able yet to make the move. But here it might come on the inside into turn 3. Pierre Kaffer tickling the tail of the leading Audi. That sends it slightly sideways. Longchamp hangs on, comes up out of turn 3. and now down towards the hairpin. So Pierre Kaffer getting closer, makes a move to the inside line, should be able to go through for the race lead on this lap 8. And indeed, through he goes. The pole position driver into the lead of the race once more, having lost it really at the first corner. Maybe you could argue that 7 and a bit laps was longer to get the lead than anticipated, but he has now hit the front as Ricci still fends off D'Agostino coming down towards turn 5. So there you've got the leaders through. And 88, which is Mattia D'Agostino, still in that 6th place, I should say, on the back of Benjamin Ricci. And again, coming out of turn 8, he's close, but he's not really close enough to make a move here. So evenly matched, these cars. And you can see the Audi perhaps good on the brakes and through corners, but with Grunt in the straight line advantage, that's where the Mercedes scores. D'Agostino pounces now on the inside line, trying to send it up the inside at turn 12, and he's done it. No, he's not. Ricci fends him off. So even though it looked as though D'Agostino had the line for the corner, Benjamin Ricci still is ahead as they come up towards turn 14 now. Great battle between these two, a continuation of what we had at the end of yesterday's race. Yesterday, Ricci ended up losing out to the Audi. He does not want that to happen here. Leaders have gone through, already 9/10 clear is Kaffer. Riding with D'Agostino. This is for 3rd, and that's a gap that's come down as well. Down to 4/10 of a second now. Reinhard Koffler ahead of Anthony Beltoise. And then look back for 5th and 6th, the next pair. It is Benjamin Ricci ahead of Mattia D'Agostino as they now come into turn 1. Mercedes just ahead of Audi. Turn right again through the second part of that corner, the turn 2 kink. And this is 3, which as soon as you've turned, you flip the other direction and get up out of turn 4 over the brow. Guelinckx still keeping Guerini at bay. So Leonardo Guerini on the back of the KTM. They've dropped off the tail slightly of Sadi Samini, who is hanging on to that class lead. Christophe Bourret still in 4th in AM, but the Mercedes rather reliant, I fear, now on Jean-Luc Bobelik trying to haul that back into the mix. And also bear in mind that the car that is last is going to have an extra 5 seconds to serve in the pits after yesterday's results anyway. So through they turn. Again, Guerini starting to line up now to make that move against Jan Guelinckx. Closes under braking, coming up towards turn 8. And now over the brow of the hill with the leading AM KTM escaping up the road. This is where Samini is able to stretch the margin whilst they squabble behind him for 2nd and 3rd places. Up towards turn 13 goes the AM fight as the Pro-Am leaders have just gone across the timing line, 2 seconds being the margin. Pit window is about 4 minutes away from opening, but in many cases you'll find the driver going to the end of the window to exploit the amount of time available to them. So as the AMs head into turn 15 on this lap, towards the end of it, Guerini there has just fallen away a little bit from Guelinckx. So that gives Guelinckx the chance to go after Samini in terms of 5th and 6th. Ricci still ahead of D'Agostino, who is brave and has another little tentative look on the inside at turn 3, brakes late. I thought for a moment he was going to go a bit too deep into the corner, but he stayed on the tail of the Mercedes. Now this might be the opportunity for a move down towards turn 5. Ricci is a little bit wider, but there the Mercedes just edges away slightly, but a full send up the inside by D'Agostino. He's done it, but can he get the car stopped to make the corner? He can. He's going to go a little bit wider than the Mercedes, which tries to fight back on the inside. Here comes Ricci up the hill, turn 6. He's got the line for the corner. Side by side out of turn 6. The road comes to D'Agostino on the inside for 7, and he's back through on the inside line. So finally, he has done it. Just like yesterday, a lot of work went into getting past that Mercedes. And Stefan Rattel can afford a smile at that with Luca Piri as they watch the pictures, because that brings his car up 1 spot. All of this on his birthday as well. So this could be quite a good present if Mattia D'Agostino can bring the car in a good place for Stefan to keep up in that leading group for the very end. So there is line 11, Leonardo Guerini. And and the lead gap in Am comes right down. You can see when Guelinckx doesn't have to defend, he can concentrate on his own race, catch up to Samini. The danger, though, is he gets a bit stuck, and that brings Guelinckx back onto his tail. So it's all rather elasticated, 1, 2 and 3 within the Am fight, as here they come, once again on towards turn 15. Another lap from these cars, maybe 2. They can think about pit stops as they head up towards the timing line. So there again, that trace of smoke from the back of the Porsche, but it's not phasing Guelinckx. He's still hustling it along and maintaining decent pace. As we can see, he's right there on the back of the KTMs in that class battle. So now drivers get themselves suited and booted. Klaus Angerhofer will take over one of the KTMs, Hubert Trunkenpolz another, and also in 15, Nicholas Salens. So there is Guelinckx coming up to turn 4, makes the climb. So Pierre Kaffer edging away in the lead, not storming away as he might have hoped, but edging away down towards then now the turn 5 hairpin comes the Am leader, Sadi Samini, hanging onto the advantage. Guelinckx now being warned about track limits at turn 1. He's wide there coming out of 5, as you can see as well, as the car goes the wrong side of the white line with all 4 wheels. 2 is okay. Not all 4. Up towards 6 and 7 and 8 then, this next left, right, right sequence. And drivers being helped with the hands device and the crash helmet before they get on board. The KTMs, of course, with that up and forward bodywork, not the easiest cars to leap in and out of, but with the pit stops being done to a regulation time of 2 minutes and 4 seconds means it's not quite such a frantic pit stop as it might be under a untimed free-for-all type pit stop as are in other championships. Leaders go through. Kaffer to Longchamp, 3 seconds that margin. There is Beltoise in third, having cleared Koffler, pulling away. And news of a spin for Sadi Samini at turn 8. So the Am class leader has had a spin, and that's going to give the Am category lead to Guelinckx then just when he needs it most, because he lost the championship lead yesterday. He's got the race lead now, and the pit window is looming. So at the end of this next lap, the pit stops can be undertaken. There's Guelinckx, there's Guelinckx now to become first and second within the Am contest, and Sadi Samini almost at the end of his stint making a mistake and falling back. It was at turn 8. There he is, trying to retake the position from Christophe Bourret. Mercedes versus KTM toe-to-toe as they come past the pits down towards turn 1. And the orange KTM breaks that bit later. Samini all fired up after that spin. So it was at turn 8, we understand, up at the very top of the lap. And fighting back now. So he's third in class, but that's going to put the pressure on his co-driver, Klaus Angerhofer, into the second stint of the race. So their drivers watching themselves on television, Wish well by the team before they get on board. And there, for number 16, is Klaus Angerhofer. He's back to us. That's Pierre Kaffer, the race leader. He'll carry on for a lap or 2 more, I would have thought, so that he's maximising the pace that he can deliver for LP Racing and for his Am, his gentleman racer, Michael Doppelmayr. So Pierre Kaffer heads up towards the line. Michael Doppelmayr, who's raced for not many seasons, did some Porsche racing in the Middle East in 2019 and again in 2020. He's done some Creventic long-distance races and then drove in this championship last season, whereas Pierre Kaffer dates back to mid-90s karting, Formula Ford, Formula Opel, Formula 3, before he went to race for Audi in the rejuvenated DTM and then for Audi in the R8 sports prototype car in ELMS and the Le Mans Series. He drove for the Risi Ferrari team in America, class winner at Le Mans, so a really impressive CV that he's got, and putting it to good use here as he comes down towards turn 5. So there is Stinus Longchamp. Up over the brow. Second placed Audi, 4 seconds the margin. It's strange, initially he was able to peg Kaffer, but now it seems as though almost the spirit is broken. And so Longchamp settling into a rhythm, but confident, of course, that he doesn't have any extra time for that car to serve in the pit. So in theory, Peter Guelinckx will be in a very, very good position once that car rejoins, as long as it can keep out of the woes that affected it yesterday. Guelinckx had a puncture, Longchamp had a spin. At this corner he's coming up to now, swapped ends on him, and he slithered off the road, but although it triggered a safety car, he was able to rejoin. There in the pits, number 16. Pit window is open, so Sadi Samini comes in to give way to Klaus Angerhofer, who climbs between the cage and then under the roll hoop And then that bodywork sort of comes back and down to enclose the driver. Funky looking cars. Very sort of sports prototype racer rather than GT car, but fits to the GT2 regulation. And KTM, of course, which made its name really by making motorbikes, has been a purveyor of interesting little sports cars for 2 decades, if not more. If you think back to the very early days of GT4, there was the Super Sport, or the GT4 Lights class, and KTM's initially open-top cars, then closed, ran in that. It was from KTM Racing in the GT4 series that, for example, Christopher Haase came. He was a class champion in that before coming into GT3 racing. So KTM has been around a lot longer than maybe we give them credit for in car building, and they do a very good job, evinced by the fact of how quick those cars are. So Langevin through in second place. That is Beltoise with 10 seconds to serve in the pit lane. Running in third place. Down the pit road comes Leonardo Guerini now. So Guerini in. And this is a car that has to serve an extra 7 seconds after yesterday's result. So in the background you can see the Jean-Luc Bobelik driven Mercedes venturing back out, and Jan Krabec now comfortably the leader of AM, coming over the brow of the hill. Krabec has been very, very good this year. His first season in GT2 racing, and he's not had an outright win, but he's had a second place at Monza at the start of the year, so the pace is good. Leonardo Guerini gets out of the Porsche to take on board some liquid, but with 2 minutes and 4 seconds like this, the car able to be refueled. But if you are doing that, the driver has to be out of it. There is the leader then, so Pierre Kaffer carries on. He's got 5.5 minutes effectively of his stint to go and needs to time that right so that he's in at the very last moment before the pit window closes. If you stop outside of that, then you're in trouble. But if you're in just before the window closes, that's okay, even if the entire stop isn't done. Big drama a lap ago for Kaffer coming out of 15 though. Hit the curb and that really unsettled the car. Big lose there, but he got away with it. So the Pro-Am and overall race leader on lap 15. Yesterday's race was 27 laps, but we did of course have that safety car period, so potentially more today if we go green all the way through. Kaffer very wide at 5 there. Doesn't take much as you get to the braking zone if you're just a fraction late to run out wide and miss the apex of the corner. He survived it, pushes on. So through he goes, heading up the hill now. So Pierre Kaffer, 5 seconds to the good. They will have to serve a further 5 seconds on top of the regulation pit stop time. So really, the gap that he's pulled over Langevin equates to very little, because they'll be pretty much together after the pit stops, and then it's down to the pace of Peter Guelinckx and Michael Doppelmayr. And with all due deference, Guelinckx proved yesterday and the past also to be the quicker of the two. Leonardo Guerini back out on track then. He stays behind the wheel of that car. No co-driver for him, and is back ahead of Jean-Luc Bobelik. So maintains track position. Porsche ahead of Mercedes as they come up towards turn 2. There is the Porsche. And as he heads out of turn 3, the Mercedes is not that far behind. Jean-Luc Bobelik, another hugely experienced driver from GT3, GT4, now GT2. There is the Mercedes, way up the curb. And this is in replay the Porsche, which had to do a sort of Control-Alt-Delete. Fired up again, but very odd. So a little bit of time lost by Leonardo Guerini with that. Didn't actually take long to reboot, did it? But I wonder whether that's the shape of things to come. Is that a minor glitch, a one-off, or is that going to be rearing its head again? Guerini hopes not. Down the pit road there comes the next of the KTMs, so that is Stefan Rossina in, and also look, Anthony Beltoise in to give way to Henri Hassad. So he sprints around the side of the car, and Henri with the H2 on the crash helmet gives him a big pat on the back, says well done. But they of course have to serve this longer stop by dint of having that second victory of the season yesterday. So Henri Hassad strapped into the car. Another hugely experienced driver, goes back to single-seater racing in 2001 when he drove in Formula Renault and Formula Ford. He's done French touring cars, Porsches. He's a French GT champion, and the AM champion in this series last year. Now, is that a concern with bodywork going up the front there? As you see the KTM here in the pits as well. It's crab etching, yes, maybe that was the crab etch KTM I was looking at with the bodywork going up. So driver change, one out, one in. Pierre Kaffer stays out and doing this absolutely right, pushing on. He's done the fastest lap of the race, as in comes Longchamp, but Kaffer not needing to worry about track limits because he's got it all perfectly under control and he's staying the right side of the line. In comes Longchamp. So second place, they did lead early on. Peter Guelinckx, again, a relatively inexperienced racer, only began in 2021. He will take the car over, and it's this very, very long drive down the pit lane that seems to take forever, but the team awaits, and Peter Guelinckx will get on board. We've got 21.5 minutes of the race to go, so Pierre Kaffer should be good to get in at the end of this lap, but it'll be tight. So there is Guelinckx. Pro job on the side, pro job done by Stinas Longchamp. Guelinckx takes the car over, away goes Hassad. So a pit stop, 2 minutes and 4 seconds, is longer than a lap. So people drop off the lead lap and they gain that back when cars ahead pit. Peter Guelinckx strapped on board. The canary yellow Audi sits and serves the time, monitored by the pit. In also comes Mattia Di Giusto to give way to birthday boy Stefan Rattel, who was delighted with the result yesterday. Let's see what birthday present might be in store for him. So Kaffer carrying on, 44 seconds to the window closing, so he'll be in this time. He's coming out of turn 14, so it's going to work on the clock for him. There is the PK Car Sport team sorting out the stop for Longchamp and Guelinckx. As in comes Pierre Kaffer. He brakes as late as he can to get to that speed limit line and crawls down the pit lane to the LP Racing stable, where hopefully they will be ready to dispatch Stefan Rattel and therefore have the space to quickly accommodate the lead car, Pierre Kaffer, at the wheel of it. Michael Doppelmayr will take it over. And down, down, down the pit lane crawls the leading Audi. Swings in, stops on his marks, and Rattel will leave, and there is Michael Doppelmayr with his seat, running around the side of the car. Pierre Kaffer's seat out. He will put Michael Doppelmayr's seat in, all part of the work for the pro driver. Anchor that into place. Michael gets in. Pierre Kaffer helps to strap the incoming driver, as there, look, almost overlapping in the pit lane, Mauro Ricci and Stefan Rattel, and that means that the penalty accrued by dint of the success yesterday goes against the Audi, which in a way is what it's meant to do. It puts them back behind the Mercedes. Remember, they've just served an extra 7 seconds, so oh so nearly keeping the place, but after Mattia Di Giusto's hard work, Stefan's got to do it himself now to catch and pass Mauro Ricci. Doppelmayr into number 18. This was the car that led, but Michael Doppelmayr in the qualifying session for yesterday's race was a good chunk slower than this man, Peter Guelinckx, the man that put it on pole position. So anticipate this Audi to be the stronger now going into the second stint. 18.75 minutes of the race to go. Over the line comes Leonardo Gorini, and he has got behind him Jean-Luc Bobelik, so that's a battle for second in AM going down towards turn 1, and behind them is Klaus Angerhofer, who after Sadie Simon's spin is last overall and in class and needs to get a wriggle on because he's the championship class leader. So there is Peter Guelinckx, and ready to go is Michael Doppelmayr. The LP Racing team give him instruction to leave the pit lane, and he's got to be quick because here is the car that he's going to be fighting with at least for a lap. Peter Guelinckx in his stride, in a rhythm, in a stint already. He knows what the car is like, knows what the track is like. Doppelmayr goes down the pit lane and maintains the lead. So a very good job done there by the LP team, because that's quite a margin that he comes out ahead by. Here is the Rattel-Ricci battle. Mauro Ricci ahead, but Stefan has caught up, considering it was quite a big gap when we last looked at turn 3. And as they head to turn 15, end of the lap, absolutely together. So Stefan Rattel having to do what Mattia Di Giusto had to do, that is fight like mad in order to get up past the Mercedes ahead of him. Behind is Nicolas Salens charging along, having taken over from Stefan Rossina. So as they come through, the KTM attacks the Audi not close enough here to attack the Mercedes. Through turn 3, they will go in a moment then. 5th, 6th, 7th, all arguing. But up front, Doppelmayr from Guelinckx, and Rattel spins coming out of turn 3. Stefan Rattel loops it, and now he's going to try and get going again. He does so, but that, I'm afraid, chucks away the place, and he will be furious with himself for that, no question. Mauro Ricci gets a free ride for a lap or so, depending on what Nicolas Salins does. They now turn their way out of turn 5 and climb the hill. So that turn 3, sharp right-hander, you turn in and you want to get on the power as soon as you can, and just a fraction too soon potentially, like Stefan Rattel did, and the back can break away. So he's rejoined but lost a place, lost a bit of time. In Am, meantime, Guerini has got Guelinckx behind him, and the outright race leader, Michael Doppelmayr, being reeled in by Peter Guelinckx on Michael Doppelmayr's outlap. Guerini keeping at bay the Mercedes then as they come down through turn 5. Race leaders go across the timing line, and it's 1 second between Doppelmayr and Guelinckx as you look at the Guerini and Guelinckx battle. But there's going to be an outright change of lead imminent as well. There is Ricci with a problem. He's got it wrong at turn 13, and that means now that Nicolas Salins has gone through and got up past him. And while all that's been going on, Peter Guelinckx on the tail of Pierre Kaffer for the race lead. He may even be able to get ahead coming through the first sector. He's done it already. So there you go, the lead has changed, and Peter Guelinckx up ahead of Michael Doppelmayr for the race lead. Into turn 5 they come. So now the question is whether or not Doppelmayr is going to drop much further back in the remaining 15.5 minutes. So that lead change done down through the turn 1, 2, 3 sequence, and already Peter Guelinckx able to pull away. You can see the margin extending all the time. Number 16 being warned about track limits currently is Klaus Angerhofer down at the rear of the queue. So Peter Guelinckx now looks for a 3rd victory of the season. Got to keep out of trouble, keep off the curb. This was what happened to Mauro Ricci heading up towards turn 13. Outbraked himself, ran a bit deep into the corner, did he? Or was there contact? Yes, a little bit of contact, I think, between Mercedes and KTM. And so we saw Ricci trying to recover from that, had to drop it down a gear and get going again, and also avoid another clash with the slightly forceful Nicolas Salins. But they got away with it, but the KTM is ahead. So now that he's through, Salins pulling away from Mauro Ricci. Behind them, of course, is the recovering Stefan Rattel. There are the leaders then, that new order. Peter Guelinckx ahead of Pierre Kaffer coming down to turn 1. That little bit of contact between Salins and Ricci noted by race control. So there, at the end of Guelinckx's first lap, first full lap in the lead, 4.8 seconds the margin between those two. So now Henri Hassad in 3rd place, 14 seconds back, and he's lapping about 6 seconds a lap quicker. So Doppelmayr is certainly going to lose another place as up towards the line comes the Rattel-Krabach battle. And this is how we've got the change of lead. So this was what happened between Guelinckx and Hassad, and it was a dive coming up through turn 2 from Peter Guelinckx on the inside line, put in ahead. So it was always inevitable, but it happened on his first flying lap from Doppelmayr's pit stop that Michael Doppelmayr lost the lead. Guerini in the meantime is keeping Guelinckx at bay. So this is for 2nd in Am. Porsche versus Mercedes. Porsche having to serve an extra 2 seconds in the pit stop. That's brought the Mercedes back into the mix. Guelinckx quicker than Bure, who drove it in the first stint. Angerhofer behind them in a car that by right should be in the lead of the class, but after Sadie Simoni's spin and also 10 seconds extra serve for yesterday's win, it's all mitigated against Angerhofer rather here. So no further investigation needed for the Salins and Ricci moment up at turn 13. The race has got 12.5 minutes to go, and Guelinckx still hustling on in pursuit of Leonardo Guarini in that Porsche. Right now, Doppelmayr and Kaffer, second overall, lead the Iron Cup. But if they lose second place to Hassad and Beltoise, it'll be those two French drivers that will claim Iron Cup honours as well, the over 100s category. 87 drops downhill, which is Jean-Luc Guelinckx, 10th overall, and Leonardo Guarini in the Porsche hangs on to the place then. Heads uphill, almost a fraction wide there on the exit, but recovers nicely enough and gets back for the apex for the corner. So through the cars come over the brow now, heading from Sagres into turn 15 and then towards the timing line, and as they do so, track limits coming now with a warning flag for Mauro Ricci. Guarini goes through and is still ahead. Behind, the race leaders are looking for Lapri now. So Guelinckx 10 seconds clear of Doppelmayr. That is Stefan Rattel versus Jan Krabeck, and Stefan goes a little bit wide, so Krabeck tries to jink up the inside. The KTM trying to squeeze through on the inside at turn 6, can't do it. Stefan Rattel able to hang on to position, but Krabeck leading in Am needs to sort of think about picking his battles here. Yes, he'd like another place overall, but he doesn't need to get past the Audi. It won't affect what he scores. He's on the lights though, saying to Patron, get out of the way. Stefan very keen, of course, on customer racing, keen to keep customers happy, but I don't think he's going to get out of the way because you flash your headlights at him, Jan. It's a good idea though, but as yet it's not worked. So number 88 Audi hanging on to 6th place. Rattel versus Krabeck then. 6th and 7th. Stefan, the architect of so much global success of GT racing, different regulations, whether it's been GT3, GT4, GT2. Took the BPR GT Championship into the FIA GT Championship, to the FIA GT1 World Championship. There's domestic championships, regional championships under the SRO auspices as well. And this weekend, as he said last night, I just want to be a racing driver and do no work at all. Well, he's working hard at the moment to keep Krabeck at bay. Here, the battle is about to get lively for second, isn't it? With Mikael Doppelmayr being caught by Henri Hassad as they climb the hill. Those two drivers heading into the turn 8 right-hander, and you can see how much quicker Hassad is. The last lap that he did was a 1:48. Whereas Doppelmayr was a 1:53. So by the end of the lap, we might well have had the change. In fact, Henri Hassad, he's reeling in Doppelmayr. It's just a case of when he makes that move. Now, Leonardo Guarini, for track limit offences, reported to the stewards. So Guarini's life is about to get bad, and Hassad gets second place, easy peasy on the inside line going up through turn 12. Doppelmayr gave him racing room, and so Henri Hassad goes through, moves ahead of his teammate, and yesterday's winners then, 18 seconds back from the overall leading car of Peter Guelinckx. That's going to be tough to bring down, but Henri Hassad is certainly pushing. Guarini reported to the stewards ahead of Guelinckx, and then Angerhofer behind. This is 2nd, 3rd and 4th. A 5-second penalty goes the way of Guarini, I should say, at the end of the race for track limit offences.
9-11, 5-second time penalty for track limits.
The voice you hear is that of Joël Dorval, the race director, confirming that the penalty will come to Leonardo Guarini post-race. So it'll be added to his time at the end of the 50 minutes, and we're 8.5 away from them, as he's not only got the penalty to think about, he's also got the Jean-Luc Guelinckx Mercedes crawling all over the back of him. 87 Mercedes then drops downhill. So there, Porsche, Mercedes, KTM, through they come en masse up towards the timing line. 8 minutes on the clock. Peter Guelinckx leads Henri Hassad now by 19 seconds. Last time Hassad was a bit slower because he had to do some overtaking, but I don't think he's going to claw back all of that time, of course. That's where that success of yesterday with the extra time in the pits goes against a driver and keeps the championship fresh all the way through the season. 2nd, 3rd, 4th could barely be closer. Guelinckx right on the back of Guarini then, 2nd in Am. the class leader, Jan Krabec, having cleared Stefan Rattel, pulling away all the time now. Mauro Ricci has dropped back behind the pair of them as well. So has Ricci had a moment somewhere? He's fallen back behind into 8th place, as now Bobelik lines up a move on Guerini, has to jink out of the way. Bobelik goes through, goes wide, goes deep, goes off, and goes back again. So Guerini retakes 2nd place as the cars accelerate again up the hill, over the brow. And it is Porsche ahead of Mercedes, ahead of KTM, 2nd, 3rd and 4th in the AM contest. So this is how we look in AM. It is now Jean-Luc Bobelik ahead of Klaus Angerhofer, but ahead of the pair still, Leonardo Guerini, despite the Mercedes briefly being through. Replay of Mauro Ricci. This might explain why he junked a load of places. Got all crossed up at turn 15 and around it went. All of that runoff tarmac doing its job, giving the driver room to save the car without it dropping into the gravel and getting stuck, so he's able to rejoin the race. 6.5 minutes are on the clock, and still Guerini is keeping Bobelik at bay. Bit of a wobble from Jean-Luc there, so he runs wide up the curb. In now to the long right-hander of turn 15. Over the line goes the Porsche. And Michael Doppelmayr now being warned about track limit offences. He's in 3rd and dropping away. He might even lose 3rd to Nicolas Salins before the end. Bobelik, though, crawling all over the back of Guerini's Porsche. 6 minutes on the clock. So Jean-Luc Bobelik has tried pretty much everything so far. He has indeed successfully, briefly, got through, but he's got to do it all over again. This is what he did a lap ago, and this time Jean-Luc Bobelik keeps a tight line and forces Guerini to run wide, but the Porsche has to drive out of the corner, and Leonardo Guerini is just going to be ahead as they get to turn 6. So round the outside line, the Porsche hangs onto the position. To the inside line looks the Mercedes. Couldn't find a way through there, though. Out of the corner they come. Not quite nose to tail there, the Porsche with the advantage. The trouble also that Bobelik has is if he makes an error and goes wide or loses too much time, Angerhofer is just about close enough to benefit from all of that. Under braking, Jean-Luc Bobelik closing right up again as they drop down the hill here out of turn 11. So the Porsche maintains the place. And they turn now up from turn 13 to Sagres and then to the end of the lap. 4 3/4 minutes for the race leader, Peter Guelinckx. Henri Hassad 2nd, and up into 3rd has gone Nicolas Salins. So, as I was suggesting would happen, it has happened. Michael Doppelmayr drops to 4th. He might even drop to 5th, actually, because Hubert Trunkenpolz is not that far behind him either. So there, down to turn 5 is Salins. That's Doppelmayr. There is Trunkenpolz. So that's 3rd, 4th and 5th. Hubert Trunkenpolz, whose uncle is the T in KTM when the company was created, and the CSO is Hubert Trunkenpolz, so intrinsically involved in KTM, be it 2-wheel products or 4. He's raced their bikes on circuits and in motocross and in enduro events, and now their cars as well. Comes out of turn 8, and last lap for Doppelmayr there in the Audi was a 54, and Trunkenpolz a 1:49, so much the quicker, and should be up with him by the end of the lap in a position to challenge with 3 3/4 minutes of this battle to go. Downhill drops Hubert Trunkenpolz. Getting closer, and he'll be ahead by the time they get to 13, won't he? Up on the inside line, Doppelmayr again gives him the room, and so through goes Hubert Trunkenpolz up into 4th position, and a very happy KTM team. Pierre Kaffer will be a resigned Pierre Kaffer, I would have thought now, bearing in mind that he did everything he could in that first stint. There's yet another warning for track limits to Leonardo Guerini, despite the fact he's already got the time penalty. So don't forget, Bobelik doesn't really have to get past him. You're looking at the 2 nose to tail, but when you apply the 5 seconds, Guerini will drop behind the Mercedes and also behind that KTM. So instead of defending, Guerini needs to push, but in so doing, he might put himself in more strife on the track limits. Turn 1 seems to be where he offends most, looking at the register of offences against his name. So up towards the line, they will come. Way out clear is Jan Krabec, making amends for yesterday's problem with the puncture So he's well clear today in the contest to, he hopes, take AM honours. And if he does, it will be a 5th AM victory of the season. There comes Michael Doppelmayr into the pit lane. Now, why is this? There's no obvious problem unless he thinks there's a tyre issue.
Yeah, he told me, right front tyre, there's a problem.
Right front tyre is the problem we're hearing in the background. So Doppelmayr in, but there's no urgency to get him back out again. So with 2 minutes to go, is this the end of the race for Michael Doppelmayr? Eventually the team there with the equipment. Doppelmayr saying there's a problem with the front right, a new tyre being brought across. Yesterday we had a couple of people with punctures, but that doesn't look to be flat. Is it loose? Is something broken? Mechanic goes to attend. So the work continues. Leonardo Guerini has had, I think, a 5-second time penalty added. We've had one that has been communicated on the screen. Now it's back up there again. Stefan Rattel is on his last warning, whisper it, for track limit abuses at turn 4. So the officials, the stewards, will have a bit to wade through at the end of the race with these penalties. So Doppelmayr looks as though he's effectively done for the race, as there is Jean-Luc Guelinckx, who has fallen back a little bit on the road from Guerini, but with now looking like 2 penalties to be added to the Porsche. Then he will jump ahead. Guerini sideways, 3 turns. He in turn is closing on Mauro Ricci. And up towards the timing line they go. The leader on his last lap, that is a Doppelmayr tyre by the look of it, which is rather covered in pickup. I don't think it's flat spotted through locking up. I think he's just gone offline and picked up a lot of junk rubber that's got stuck to a hot tyre and given him a vibration. So Doppelmayr has perhaps been tricked into thinking there was a problem when there might not have been. But if the driver's not happy, then you can understand why he might want to pit and do something about it. The car is back out again, but down in last place now. Ricci under attack. Guerini has a look to the inside line. Can't find a way through there. But there, KTM versus Mercedes. That was Algarve having a proper go at Guelinckx. Peter Guelinckx has gone through onto his last lap. He squeezed through by just a few seconds. So one more lap for Peter Guelinckx to do, as Leonardo Guerini, having got himself up past Ricci, is under attack again at turn 8. The Mercedes to the inside line there. Tries to go through, can't do it. Leonardo Guerini stays ahead. He needs to gain as many places as he can and then push and try and build the gap because of the Damocletian time penalties that will be applied post-race. Jorge Assad goes through. He's lost a whole load of time because that was about 19 seconds a few laps back. It's now 28 seconds. So Jorge Assad may have had a moment somewhere to lose so much time, but he is at least persevering, trying to get back onto terms with the race leader. But second is what he's going to have to settle for. It's much, much closer further down the order, isn't it, here, for 7th, 8th, 9th and 10th places, just like we had yesterday. Some great racing goes on in GT2. It only needs another half a dozen cars or so, and then it's got that critical mass to encourage even more in. Over the line comes Guerini, comes Guelinckx, comes Algarve. 8th, 9th, 10th on the road, and then 11th behind them, the Mercedes that's fallen back. So down now to the right hand of turn 1. But Peter Guelinckx, after a poor race yesterday when the punctured tyre really cost them, he's kicked up the dirt in the background by the look of it, but he's on to his final couple of corners now and on target for a 3rd win of the season in the number 1 PK Car Sport Audi. Comes into turn 15, sets the car up, goes through that long right-hander, and now up towards the timing line. It's going to be a 3rd victory of the season in the Fanatec GT2 European Series for Peter Guelinckx, for Stinus Langin, his co-driver, and to win by a monster margin as well over Jorge Assad and Anthony Beltoise in 2nd place. There is KTM number 15, so that's for 3rd. That's Nicholas Salens, who took the car over from Stefan Rosina. That's 2nd place. Yesterday's winners get a win and a 2nd out of the weekend. So Jorge Assad and Anthony Beltoise over the line for 2nd spot, and Salens and Rosina through behind them in 3rd place. And Jan Krabach is on target for AM honours here as he comes towards the line. And that's a 5th AM class win of the season and 4th overall as well. Really good effort that from Jan Krabach. So very happy. Stinus Longchamp celebrates. 3rd win of the year for them. Stefan Rattel up towards the line. Hard race that with the fight he had with Mauro Ricci with the spin and then being able to get back onto terms. 6th overall. Jan Krabach, the AM winner from Jean-Luc Bobelik. I suspect once the penalties are all applied. Although where is Bobelik gone to? Now he's dropped back hugely on the last lap. Guelinckx has come through. There is Doppelmayr. There is Jean-Luc Bobelik, who dropped 13 seconds, and Klaus Angerhofer has gone missing as well. So Guelinckx, after all of that, keeps his 2nd place in class, and Bobelik and Bourret 3rd, and Angerhofer has yet to come by. So was there an incident? Yes, Angerhofer in the gravel at turn 8 on the last lap, and I suspect he might have got involved with Jean-Luc Bobelik, which is why, oh dear, and off the road also is Ricci. So it was Ricci and Angerhofer were being told that made contact, but Bobelik was badly delayed on that last lap as well. So maybe he had to check up to avoid contact or was delayed trying to take evasive action. Either way, it means that Jan Krabach is the winner from Leonardo Guelinckx, and then Bobelik and Bourret take 3rd within the AM contest. So we'll have a look at the results in a moment. The stewards will have a look at that incident between Mauro Ricci and Klaus Angerhofer, see if anything needs to be done. Angerhofer has not made it to the end, nor has Ricci, as you saw that car in the barriers. So the KTM out, the Mercedes out, real shame, but other emotions for happy teams in the pit lane, where there is a delighted Peter Guelinckx bringing the car in. Stinus Longchamp goes to greet him. There also is Nicolas Salens bringing 15 KTM, and 2nd place Henri Hassad. Hot sound of number 67 Audi. So delighted Guelinckx celebrates. Stinus Longchamp with him. Very happy team indeed, and Peter Guelinckx, a very competitive amateur racer, will go shortly to the top step of the podium and celebrate win number 3 of the year. The Team True Racing team is Nicolas Salens with Stefan Rossina, celebrating with his family. And as down the pit lane come those not required for the podium. The car of Michael Doppelmayr ending up 11th, but on the distance still doesn't actually get back ahead of Angerhofer and Ricci after that pit stop. A win for Stinus Longchamp and Peter Guelinckx. Steph Wentworth is down there to have a word with our celebrating victors.
I'm with the winners, the number 1 PK Car Sport. Huge congratulations, Peter. Yesterday didn't exactly go to plan for you, but you've really redeemed yourselves, haven't you?
No, I think we forgot Lady Luck at home, and we had some issues. In the 2nd round I had a puncture, and then Stinus had electronical issues and it caused him to have a spin. But I think we set things straight, and we loved the track, and we were pretty dominant, we can say. So we were really happy.
And this is your 3rd win of the season, so it's got to mean a huge amount.
It means a lot, but the season isn't over, and nothing is lost, but we have everything to gain, and we'll see. But it's going to be exciting.
Okay, and Stinus, can we bring you in as well? The first stint, it was quite an interesting one. You were battling with Pierre Kaffer for quite a while. How was that for you?
Yeah, I had a really good start. Could take a gap, I think, from a few seconds. But then Pierre came closer, and I knew Peter needed the tires. So I considered my stint and watched the tires. So yeah, it was a good stint, and then Peter did an amazing job at the end. So I think the whole hour was going pretty well.
All right, well, congratulations and thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So the victorious Audi drivers take that 3rd victory of the season, and the next stop for the championship will take the teams to Valencia, and then Paul Ricard to round out the season. It's a short calendar with lots of track time, free practice, qualifying, and the 2 races at each event. And the championship, indeed the category, certainly deserves to succeed. A lot of effort put into it by SRO to entice more manufacturers to build cars. And after the evidence of 2.5 seasons of good racing, certainly lots of drivers dipping in, having a look, and then going off to try and make plans for the following season. Stinus Longchamp then it is, with Peter Guelinckx, who takes the race win from Anthony Beltoise and Henri Hassad, and then third Nicolas Salens and Stefan Rossina. Jan Krabech fourth to win in Am, ahead of Hubert Trunkenpolz and Reinhard Koffler. Sixth, Mattia Di Giusto and Stefan Rattel. Leonardo Guarini seventh, kept his second in Am after the delay for Christophe Bourret and Jean-Luc Boubelic on the last lap. Provisionally 9th and 10th, although they didn't take the checkered flag. Sadie Simon and Klaus Angerhofer's KTM ahead of the Mauro and Portimão Ricci Mercedes-AMG behind, and then bringing up the rear after the pit stop, the extra pit stop, Michael Doppelmayr after Pierre Kaffer put the car on pole. So win number 3 of the season for the Audi of Peter Guelinckx and Stinus Longchamp. And so now drivers make their way to the podium, where Valérie Guillon, the championship manager, will have the trophies organised, the winners' caps, and a quick look back as we wait for the drivers to head there at the highlights, which began with Pierre Kaffer on pole, making that big curve strike at the first corner, and that gave the opportunity around the outside for Stinus Longchamp to take the lead. Kaffer had to work hard, first of all, to get past Reinhard Koffler in the KTM. Once he cracked that, he was soon released onto the tail of the yellow Audi for the race lead, and Pierre Kaffer setting the fastest lap as he hustled on in pursuit of Longchamp, and eventually was able to make a move. Thought about it at turn 3, but the door was closed, little touch between the two of them, but he made the move heading into turn 5 on the inside line. And once ahead, Pierre Kaffer was able to start building that advantage. Mattia Di Giusto pulled a similar move against Portimão Ricci, ran a bit deep into the hairpin, and that gave the Mercedes the chance to come back at him on the climb up the hill. Great racing, just like in race 1 between the two. On the pit stops, Guelinckx took over from Longchamp and was able to dive ahead of Michael Doppelmayr, coming out of turn 2, putting himself into the lead of the race, a lead he was never to lose, as Jean-Luc Boubelic got ahead of Leonardo Guarini and then ran wide. The battle, though, for second place went the way of Henri Hassad, moving past Michael Doppelmayr, who was struggling with a vibration from a front right tyre after he got a lot of pickup on it, and there was no stopping Peter Guelinckx up front, edging away ever further to come through to take the race win and to celebrate a third victory of Fanatec GT2 European Series. So the drivers then on the podium in a moment. They're probably just in the cool room behind, ready to be called forward. And so the top 3 will be ready. And it'll be Pro-Am and Am podiums that we have. In the yellow overalls, the very distinctive colours carried now by Peter Guelinckx and Stinus Longchamp. Leonardo Guarini that they're chatting to, the Am runner-up. So the podium is ready. Very animated description of his stint by Stinus Longchamp, but also perhaps talking about this electrical glitch yesterday that caused the car to have that spin, as Peter Guelinckx was explaining. Anthony Beltoise and Henri Hassad arrive, but a different winning team here. A correction has been put on the timing screen. It was not an incident between Mauro Ricci and Klaus Angerhofer that's being looked at. It is between Boubelic and Angerhofer that's being looked at. I said Boubelic was delayed. Well, there's more evidence as to how. Whether that involved Ricci, we don't know, because we've not had a chance to see a replay of it. But the Mercedes of Ricci in the barriers, not getting to the flag, nor was the KTM of Angerhofer, but it was Boubelic and Angerhofer that's going to be looked at. Right, so I think the drivers are there. They're all ready. So for third place in Pro-Am, stepping forward are Nicolas Salens and Stefan Rossina. KTM drivers for Team True Racing, the Austrian team. Then it is Henri Hassad and Anthony Beltoise, a win yesterday, second place today. Very well done to their rivals, and Anthony Beltoise very happy with that second spot. Henri Hassad wants to be on the top step today, but he can't be because it's reserved for these two, for Peter Guelinckx and for Stinus Longin, a third win of the year, a win by over 28 seconds, somewhat dominant towards the end of the race. And for the Belgian PK Car Sport team, honours here in race 2 at Portimão. Trophies go to the third. Then for second place, the trophies will be presented to Henri Hassad and to Anthony Beltoise. And then the race winners' trophies, yet more for the mantelpiece for Peter Guelinckx and for Stinus Longin from Valery Guillon, the championship manager. Congratulations to the PK Car Sport team, and with their work done for the weekend, it might now be time to celebrate. Champagne is ready, and like yesterday, Henri Hassad is very keen to get on with the job of spraying anybody and anything that's within range. But first, there is the national anthem for PK Car Sport as the winning team. So congratulations to the winning Pro-Ams, and in terms of the championship, it is Anthony Beltoise and Henri Hassad ahead now by just 3 points from Nicolas Seylens and Stefan Rossina, with Peter Guelinckx and Stinus Longin that little bit nearer in third. Then you've got Reinhard Koffler ahead of Pierre Kaffer and Michael Doppelmayr, with Mauro and Benjamin Ricci ahead of Matty Di Giusto and Stefan Rattel. So the AM podium awaits. Drivers for that will be making their way towards the podium very shortly. And a win for Jan Krabec, 4th place overall. Very impressive job done as the Pro-Am drivers on the next round of the championship in Valencia. So another Iberian visit, and that will be with the GT World Challenge Sprint Series in mid-September. So there's the podium, and as the Pro-Am drivers leave, so the AMs can be called forward, and for third place will be Jean-Luc Bobelic and Christophe Bourret. First appearance in the championship, and that's 2 third places. Leonardo Guarini, another second place like yesterday in the Porsche. And for the 5th time this season, the AM winner in Fanatec GT2 European Series, Jan Krabec, for the top step of the podium. So then the trophies are being made ready, and it will be for the 3rd placed French drivers. I need another one, she says. So Valerie Guillon goes back to get a trophy for Christophe Bourret as well. Trophies for the 3rd. It's just the one for Leonardo Guarini at the far end of the podium, electing, as he did last year, to drive solo, the AB Motors Porsche driver. 2nd place for Leonardo, and the trophy to the winner, to Jan Krabec. So congratulations to the RTR Project team, the Czech driver Jan Krabec, the bronze graded driver, who takes the class win, 4th overall, and win number 5 of the season. In terms of the championship, Jan Krabec then ahead of Klaus Angerhofer, Leonardo Guarini 3rd from Sedi Sarmini, and then the absent Mantas Janevicius. So join us next time in the sun, we hope, in Valencia for Fanatec GT2 European Series. From Steph Wentworth and David Addison, for now, goodbye.